In the dirty ports of 1980s Malaysia, Leonard Francis was a joke, an overweight nobody watching his father beg American officers for scraps. 30 years later, that nobody owns the U.S. Navy. He weighs 350 pounds. He wears bespoke Italian suits. And at the most exclusive table in Singapore, United States admirals are waiting for his permission to speak. He isn't begging for contracts anymore. He's giving orders. He didn't just get rich, he got revenge. For over a decade, this high school dropout traded classified national secrets for Lady Gaga tickets. He swapped the safety of nuclear warships for prostitutes and suckling pigs. He hijacked the most powerful military on Earth without firing a single shot. How did one man turn the 7th Fleet into his personal concierge service? And how did he get away with it? The secret to Leonard's rise wasn't that he was a business genius. It was that he noticed something the U.S. Navy refused to admit. He saw that the men commanding these massive warships were powerful on paper, but in reality, they were lonely. They were overworked. They were underpaid. And when they docked in foreign ports like Port Klang or Singapore, they were thousands of miles from home in a culture they didn't understand. Leonard didn't just offer them fuel and water. He offered them the one thing the Navy couldn't give them. He offered them the good life. When Leonard took over the family business, Glenn Defense Marine Asia, he stopped acting like a contractor and started acting like a brother. He targeted the rising stars of the Navy, the officers who looked like they were going places. He called them his golden geese. Take Commander Michael Misiewicz. He was a refugee who escaped the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia, was adopted by an American woman, and rose through the ranks to command a U.S. destroyer. He was a hero, but he was also insecure. He wanted to belong. Leonard saw that hole in Misiewicz's soul, and he filled it with luxury. When Misiewicz's ship arrived in port, Leonard was there on the tarmac with a fleet of limousines. He didn't shake hands, he hugged. He called Misiewicz little brother. He took him to the finest tailors in Hong Kong for bespoke suits. He bought him tickets to The Lion King on Broadway for his family. He gave him iPads, Cubans, and envelopes stuffed with cash. But the real currency wasn't money. It was pleasure. Leonard's parties were legendary. We are talking about multi-day benders at the Shangri-La Hotel in Singapore or the MacArthur Suite in Manila. He hired security details that were actually squads of prostitutes. He flew in models from Mongolia and Russia. He bought out entire karaoke bars. And while these American officers were drunk on $500 champagne and the attention of beautiful women, Leonard would lean in and whisper, "Hey, little brother, I've got a lot of supplies sitting in a port in Thailand. It would really help me out if you could bring your ship there next week." And Misiewicz, the operations officer for the entire fleet, would nod. He would go back to his ship and tell his superiors, "Logistically, Thailand makes the most sense for our route." And just like that, a nuclear-powered warship was rerouted, not because of national security, not because of strategy, but because a businessman from Penang needed to offload some inventory. Leonard Francis had turned the United States Navy into a delivery service for his company. By 2010, Leonard was effectively running the logistics for the entire U.S. 7th Fleet. If a ship was in the Pacific Ocean, Leonard knew where it was going, and what it needed. But here's where the story shifts from simple bribery to masterclass fraud. Getting the ships to his ports was just step one. Step two was the billing. Leonard knew that the U.S. military is a giant bureaucracy. It runs on paperwork. And if you drown a bureaucracy in enough paper, they stop reading it. Leonard's company held a monopoly in many ports across Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, and the Philippines. When a ship docked, he could charge whatever he wanted. But he didn't just overcharge, he invented reality. Let's say a destroyer needed its sewage tanks pumped out. A normal cost in Port Klang might be $4,000. Leonard would bill the Navy $45,000. But how did he get away with a 1,000% markup? He created ghost companies. He would create a fake company. Let's call it Penang Marine Services. He would print out a fake letterhead and a fake invoice charging $45,000. Then, his main company would submit that invoice to the Navy and say, "Look, this is what the subcontractor charged us. We have no choice." The Navy officers on the ship, the ones Leonard had bribed with prostitutes and Versace bags, would sign the receipt without blinking. The audacity was breathtaking. He charged for security guards who didn't exist. He charged for luxury buses and provided rusted vans. He once charged the Navy $80,000 for fresh water that was actually just pumped directly from the city tap. In one infamous case, the USS George Washington Carrier Group pulled into Malaysia. Leonard charged them hundreds of thousands of dollars in port tariffs. Those tariffs didn't exist. The Malaysian government had never heard of them. Leonard just typed them into an Excel spreadsheet, hit print, and the US Treasury sent him a check. And that's the real weapon here. Not guns, not ships, spreadsheets. If you actually enjoy understanding how money moves, how companies manipulate numbers or hide risk, that's why I use platforms like Seeking Alpha. Serious investors break down financial statements the way investigators should. There's an exclusive discount in the description if you want access. Because in stories like this, the truth is always buried in the numbers. Hidden numbers, like those from Leonard Francis, who was stealing millions of dollars a month. Back in Penang, Leonard looked like a success story. The local boy who made it big. A mansion, security, money everywhere. But that story wasn't real. He was the Great Gatsby of Southeast Asia. But there was a problem Leonard hadn't accounted for. Greed makes you sloppy. Somewhere in the basement of the Pentagon, the algorithms that track spending started blinking red. A forensic accountant looked at the data and asked a simple question. Why does it cost 400% more to dock a ship in Thailand when Leonard Francis is involved? The Naval Criminal Investigative Service, the NCIS, opened a case. They started digging. They were ready to bring the hammer down. But then, something strange happened. Every time the NCIS planned a raid, Leonard was already gone. Every time they scheduled a surprise audit, Leonard's books were spotless. Every time they tried to interview a witness, the witness had already been coached. It was as if Leonard could see the future. And that's because he could. This is the twist that turns this story from a corruption scandal into a spy thriller. Leonard Francis wasn't just bribing the officers who drove the ships. He had bribed the cop who was supposed to catch him. Meet John Beliveau, a supervisory special agent with the NCIS. He was a man with top-secret clearance. He was the man sworn to protect the fleet from criminals like Leonard. But Beliveau had a weakness. He was obsessed with Leonard's lifestyle. He wanted the girls, the dinners, the travel. He looked at Leonard, and he didn't see a criminal. He saw a rock star. So they made a deal. Leonard provided Beliveau with access to his traveling squad of prostitutes. He paid for his airfare. He gave him cash. In exchange, Beliveau became Leonard's personal spy inside the police force. For years, Beliveau would log into the secure NCIS database, download the confidential files regarding the investigation into Leonard Francis, and email them directly to him. Think about the level of betrayal here. The investigators would interview a witness on Tuesday. Beliveau would download the interview transcript on Wednesday. Leonard would read it on Thursday and intimidate the witness on Friday. It was a game of cat and mouse, but the mouse had the cat's GPS coordinates. "They're coming for your bank records in Singapore," Beliveau would warn. Leonard would move the money. "They're sending an agent to interview Captain Dusek." Leonard would coach Dusek on exactly what lies to tell. This went on for years. The honest agents at NCIS were losing their minds. They felt like they were chasing a ghost. But Leonard's arrogance eventually became his undoing. He started getting sloppy with his emails. He started bragging too much. And finally, the feds realized the leak was coming from inside the house. They set a digital trap. Not for Leonard, but for Beliveau. They fed false information into the system and waited to see if it reached Leonard. It did. Once they arrested Beliveau, Leonard's shield was gone. He was exposed. And that led to the trap in San Diego, the handcuffs, the end of the empire. But if you think the story ends with Leonard in a jail cell, you don't know Fat Leonard. After his arrest in 2013, Leonard Francis did what any survivalist would do. He flipped. He sang like a canary. He gave the feds the names of hundreds of officers, admirals, captains, commanders. He handed over the sex tapes. He handed over the spreadsheets. The fallout was nuclear. 60 admirals came under investigation. Hundreds of officers had their careers ended. It was the greatest humiliation the U.S. Navy had ever suffered. Because Leonard was cooperating so helpfully, and because he claimed to be suffering from kidney cancer, the American judge allowed him a special privilege. Instead of a concrete cell, Leonard was allowed to stay under house arrest in a luxury rental home in San Diego. He had security guards. He had a GPS ankle monitor. But he was comfortable. He sat there for years while the trials dragged on. But as September 2022 approached, Leonard got nervous. His sentencing was weeks away. He was looking at 25 years in a federal supermax prison. He would likely die behind bars. Leonard looked at his ankle monitor. He looked at the private security guards who were, frankly, asleep at the wheel. And he decided he wasn't going to die in an American prison. On the morning of September 4th, 2022, Labor Day weekend, Leonard Francis took a pair of heavy-duty bolt cutters and snapped his GPS tracker. He didn't run immediately. He calmly packed his bags. The private security firm monitoring him didn't notice a tamper alert. Or maybe they did, and nobody called it in. The incompetence was staggering. By the time the police arrived at the house 7 hours later, it was empty. The neighbors said they saw U-Haul trucks days before. Leonard hadn't just escaped. He had moved out. He crossed the border into Mexico. From Tijuana, he flew to Cuba. From Cuba, he made his way to Venezuela. For 2 weeks, the U.S. government was the laughingstock of the world again. The man who stole $35 million had just walked out the back door. In coffee shops across Kuala Lumpur and Penang, the story spread quickly. The Penang boy had slipped through the fingers of the FBI, but Leonard's luck had finally run dry. He was trying to get to Russia, hoping for asylum, but he was stopped at the airport in Caracas. Interpol had him. And this is where the story takes its final geopolitical twist. Leonard was stuck in a Venezuelan prison. The U.S. wanted him back, but the U.S. and Venezuela are enemies. It looked like a stalemate. But in late 2023, the U.S. government made a massive trade. They agreed to release Alex Saab, a close ally of the Venezuelan president, who was in a U.S. prison for money laundering. In exchange, Venezuela gave them 10 Americans. And Leonard Francis. The Fat Leonard saga had become so big, it required a diplomatic treaty to solve it. In November 2024, Leonard Francis finally stood before a judge for sentencing. He looked different. He had lost weight. The swagger was gone. The judge sentenced him to 15 years in federal prison and ordered him to pay $20 million in restitution. But the damage was already done. Leonard Francis didn't just steal money. He stole the reputation of the United States Navy. He proved that you don't need a cyber weapon or a hypersonic missile to defeat a superpower. You just need to understand human nature. He knew that every man has a price, and he knew that for many of these officers, that price was shockingly low. A nice dinner, a few compliments, a night with a woman. In the end, Leonard Francis exposed a hard truth. You can build the most advanced aircraft carriers in the world. You can have the most sophisticated radar, but the system is only as strong as the people running it. And people are flawed. But while Leonard was busy bribing individuals, just across the water, a much larger gamble was taking place. A $100 billion dream turned ghost town that is now being reborn as a secret vault for the world's elite. Next time, we're going inside the sovereign pivot of Forest City. You won't want to miss how the game is changing in 2026. Subscribe and hit the bell to see it first. I'll see you on the next one.